person next to you. Say, God loves you and I love you too. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, we come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love. Now look at the person next to you. Say, I recognize the God in you. Yeah, feel the love and the unity. Raise the voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, we come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, from every walk of life, kinship we unite in honor of the God in each other. Just take a look at the person next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, we come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love.
Yay. So, I want to welcome you this morning. And everybody who's on the live stream this morning. Before I get started, I have the privilege of making a very big announcement for the Granada Hills Center for Spiritual Living. Many of you know I'm here today because Reverend Mike is on vacation, a much needed vacation. And just as a little background to the piece of news, for the last 10 or so years, I have been part of the doctoral nomination committee for CSL as an organization. And it's one of the best committees I have ever been on because everybody that gets nominated, or those that get nominated and get approved, receive a prize, a beautiful prize. And 2 weeks ago, Monday, was my last official day as a member of the committee. 2 people have come on to take my place and to take my friend Jane Ryder's place. We were 2 of the RSI people who were on this committee so that there was balance in the committee. Anyway, to make a long story short, for 8 weeks during the summer, I did a class here, a prosperity class. And every week I would come early and sit and chat with Reverend Mike in his office and ask him questions. He didn't have a clue that I was gathering information to nominate him for his Doctor of Divinity. And so week after week, I would gather information about what he's doing in the community and the Granada Hills Improvement Association and just the various things that he's done over the years. I helped to do the last edit on his book that he wrote last year. Anyway, to make a long story short, you may now address him as Reverend Dr. Michael McMorrow. So he called me on the road yesterday and invited me to be the one to make the announcement this morning, largely because I am the Minister Emeritus of this center, and he was my student all through those years. And I could tell stories about him, but I won't tell those stories today. I often tell them in class, just so people know that he he helped to fund our sewer system by having to put $5 in the jar every time he did a swear word or said a swear word. So, welcome everybody, not only here in person, but on the live stream. I'm so happy that you showed up this morning. The candles are already lit, but just for the purposes of those on the live stream and those here today, I'll go through the ceremonial part of it if you don't mind. So the lighting the flames, which we normally do, but there's a little impediment here with this beautiful altar that the ladies have created for us. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from that one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience. The first candle we light is for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. The second candle we light for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. The fourth candle we light for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. The fifth candle we light for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. The eighth candle we light for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We light the 10th candle for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit and for the space that we are holding for them at this center. And if you acknowledge the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experienced the healing flame of God's eternal love. Good. And this morning, as our presider, we are pleased, we are blessed to have Reverend Jessica Fish as our presider. Please give her a warm welcome.
There is one flame that burns in our hearts. There is one light that shines through our love. We light this flame with faith. We find this light within our own soul. There is one flame, one light within.
Yes. There is one. There is only one. God. And I know that as there is only one God, that we, by logic, are one with God as well. There isn't any spot where we're separate from God. So I know that this service is inexplicably blessed with this co-creation of those here in the sanctuary, those of you online today, and those of you who may be watching us later. It's all fabulous here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills. And I know that our musical inspiration, Teresa James, is blessed. Our multimedia back there with Evan and Mike Carlin, blessed. That our greeters and just everybody who makes this service is blessed. I know that Reverend Dr. Maureen is giving us God's message falling on God's ears. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for the center. I'm so grateful for all of you. And I just release this word into the law. And we can relax and just let it be. Amen. All right. So, God, look at all you beautiful people and all of you online. It is a good morning. So, in early September this year, we had a lightning storm of epic proportion in Acton, where I live. I mean, I'm talking lots of lightning and thunder in a very short period of time. Anyway, this Southern California girl was freaked out. I mean, I'm cool with earthquakes, right? I can handle those. But lightning, oh my God, what the heck is that? There was this one lightning bolt that struck about 100 yards from my house. It was so bright that it lit up the outside like daylight, broad daylight. My house shook by how loud the thunder was. So the next day, I was still so freaked out about the possibility of my house getting hit by this tremendous bolt of lightning, a bolt of energy, that I started looking at getting lightning rods for my house and surge protectors, and I was freaked out. So when a lightning, that tremendous amount of energy, hits a house or a tree without a lightning rod, that house or tree resists this energy, causing massive heat damage, like it starts a fire. It has the house just burst into flames, right? So the lightning rod system is a excellent low resistance conductor, and thus allows the current of tremendous energy to safely flow to the ground without causing any heat damage. Now, this idea of not resisting energy, but instead directing it, it's aligned with science of mind. So listen to our founder, Ernest Holmes. He says, this principle of the divine circuit of life, yeah, he did say divine circuit of life in the New Thought Dictionary. He said, life flows out of the absolute through us and returns to its source. And when we try to hold on to our good, we block our channel for receiving more good. Those who give of themselves the most receive the most unless they block the circuit. The divine circuit takes care of the return, and we only need to be receptive to our highest good. So science says that matter is in continuous flow. But if I believe I can only handle a little, then I only receive a little. In my case, I had a hard time really knowing that I could handle the infinite energy of God that is available to me. I was very scared of that powerful lightning bolt hitting my house, hitting 100 yards away from my house. I was also scared of how much God there is always available to flow through my life. But after researching the tried and true lightning and rod technology and how it works, I realized I can apply what lightning rods do: non-resistance. It comes down to this. The law of circulation says the flow of energy through life is complete. It's not congested. I receive from life exactly what I can accept. No more, no less. It's truly done unto me according to what I believe. Not just my belief in God, but my belief in myself. And today, I declare that I can handle all of God flowing through me. Yes, I can be a lightning rod for God, allowing all of God to flow through me. Yes. Now, here's the big question. Can we all be lightning rods for God? Yes. Let us allow that tremendous, unlimited energy of God to flow through our lives, knowing that we're also safely grounded in God. Thank you.
I never knew such happiness. I never knew such joy. I never felt this way before God came into my life. Oh, 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 oh. You opened my heart when I was down. You took me out of darkness and despair. If there was something I could do to repay for all that given me, I'd do it in a second, but I know your love is free. Oh, I never knew such happiness. I never knew such joy. I never felt this good before God came into my life. Oh, 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 well, I've had my share of hard times. I had my share of good. I never knew the joy of love till you showed me I could. I can do anything I want to. Oh, you opened every door. I'd like to thank you for your love and more. Oh, I never knew such happiness. I never knew such joy. I never felt this good before God came into my life. Oh, 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 I never knew such happiness. I never knew such joy.
Thank you, Teresa. All right. So now I'm going to do announcements. All right. So first and foremost, if you would like prayer support, you can find how to contact a practitioner by going online at csl.org. Today, we have Zoom fellowship meeting at 11:45, and that's facilitated by Judy Dunkley, our practitioner here. For those of you who are online, you know how to get onto the Zoom room. It's a great fellowship. We get to chat and talk all about ourselves, and it's fun having that time of fellowship, because I miss being in the sanctuary in Sparks Hall and having fellowship there. Coming up this Wednesday night, the Get Real and Heal service, Reverend Mike is doing something special around our ofrenda. Our Wednesday night service is open without reservations. to be here in the sanctuary. And you can also join us live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and our website, cslgh.org. November, we have an Attitude of Gratitude Challenge. So for those of you in the sanctuary, there's a flyer out in the by the office there. For those of you online, check the center's e-news email that you get on Wednesdays, because the instructions are there too. Living Intentionally in 2022 with Reverend Nikki is an online class that's being offered. It's a 6-week class starting Sunday, November 7th at 3 p.m. The required book is The Technology of Intention. Doesn't that sound good? Anyway, you got to email Reverend Nikki at tennisnikki@icloud.com for registration and meeting information. Now, we have an event coming up. It's the E.T. Outdoor Movie Screening. It's on November 12th. You might wonder, why are we having an E.T. movie screening, all right? But did you know that out there on White Oak, over there, is the street that's in that famous scene where they're bicycling in E.T., and you see all those trees. It's a beautiful, you go out to White Oak and go look, and you'll go, for those of you who are old enough to remember the movie, you'll see the street and you'll go, oh yeah, that's E.T. So it's in the parking lot behind Andrews and Van Loom Insurance. That's just west across the street from the Chat Oak Vet, okay? All right, so now that I've done the announcements, we get to do our declaration of principles. Let's all stand. For those of you in the sanctuary, we get to stand. You can stand at home too. So, our declaration of principles. We believe in one universal spirit, manifesting through all natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone who recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon a law of mind, which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and the immortality of the individual soul forever experience. What's the bottom line?
We believe in the eternal goodness, giving us life.
I don't know if you can put the slides up so we can see the bottom line there, but no? Okay. All right, so keep standing. We're going to sing our congregational song.
All right, let's go down. Heaven's inside of me. Heaven's inside of me. Oh, a spirit in nature, within and without. Now I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of me. Heaven's inside of you. Heaven's inside of you. Oh, a spirit in nature, within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of you. Heaven's inside of us. Oh, heaven's inside of us. Oh, a spirit in nature, within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of us. Heaven's inside of us. Heaven's inside of us. Oh, a spirit in nature, within and without. Now that I know that God's right here, right now. Heaven's inside of us.
I just want to acknowledge Teresa James. As you know, we are candidating for a new musical director here at Granada Hills, and Teresa's one of those in contention. So give her a warm welcome this morning.
Thank you.
She was the former musical director at the Santa Clarita Center for Spiritual Living. And so, you know, it's just a natural segue. But then there are other people who feel their segues are just as natural. So those that are in contention. I just want to thank Reverend Mike this morning for inviting me to come back. For any of you who don't know who I am, I'm Maureen. I'm not Mike McMorrow. This isn't a costume. I'm the former minister emeritus of Granada Hills. I was here for 14 and a half years before Reverend Mike took over. And like I said, it's kind of like coming home to my spiritual family when I come here. I also want to acknowledge Jamie Lula. Did I say this in the beginning? I said it at the first service, I think. But Jamie Lula has also been awarded a doctorate of humane letters for his body of work musically that he has done for the religious science organization. So 2 wonderful demonstrations, and especially because Jamie has such a history with our center when he was here on Wednesday nights with the young adults. So there you go. So today the talk title is I'll Meet You There. And it is congruent with what the CSL organizational talk title would have been for today. And the context of today's topic is the wonderful Rumi quote that says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Now that's the part we usually hear. That's the part that comes on a meme on Facebook, but there's a little bit more to it. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase, quote unquote, each other, doesn't make sense. So that's the quote in its entirety. And what I drew from that, the thing for me is like, every minister that ever stood up and gave a Sunday talk never lets the talk title get in the way of what they have to say. So there were a lot of notes that were given that would prompt some ideas. But for me, it showed up in the idea that so many of us are in a state of confusion right now. Who's right? Who's wrong? What's good? What's bad? And never has the human experience been quite so polarized as it is right now. Even though the human experience is rife with polar opposites, we have to deal with it in the human experience. At the level of spirit, it's all one, everything's beautiful, there is love abounding and all the rest of it. But in the human experience, we deal with the pairs of opposites. Some of us have been able to maintain our spiritual equilibrium through this whole effort, and others, not so much. Not so much. Last week was a particularly turbulent week in my life. Not only the people that I counseled with, but friends being contentious and having to deal with their issues, even when I have issues of my own. But being a minister, I think they think I'm immune from that. But I am here to tell you that if you're anything like me, all I have to do to disrupt my serenity is turn on CNN. And I can find all kinds of reasons for the truth with a capital T to go flying out the window. Now, I don't do that very often anymore. You know, those of us who have been in this teaching for a very long time are being tested to see whether the teaching is in us right now. You know, we are the leaders we've been looking for, I think. And I find myself patting people on the shoulder and saying, it's all going to be all right. It's going to be fine. You know, everything's working in exactly the way it's supposed to work. We are called to a higher order of thought. It's not always the easiest thing to do when confronted with high levels of emotional reaction. Because, God, in its infinite wisdom, has created all these different people in our lives, all these different energies in our lives. And maybe some of those energies aren't evolved. Or maybe they're working in the first kingdom consciousness, which is dealing with level at the victim stage. We all know that first level, being a victim, is a lifetime experience. Feeling like a victim has a beginning and an end. And we've all been victimized by circumstances at one time or another in our lives. We cannot weigh and measure our consciousness. We can't do that as a comparison to someone else's. There is no such comparison in the mind of God. There is no better or worse. And to say there is would be an insult to the person sitting next to you or in front of you or behind you here in the center today. I am God uniquely individualized, as is every single person in this room. However, if I have to tell you I'm a person of high consciousness, it's a good chance that I need to say that to convince myself. My consciousness comes before, as Ernest Holmes says, my consciousness comes before me in all things. People know who I am even before I get close to them. It has a little bit of an arrogant ring to it, doesn't it, when we say I'm a person of high consciousness? In the same way that when someone says I'm a mystic, what? If I see Kathy, Reverend Kathy, as a mystic, and I say, that Kathy Lyons, she's a mystic. That's for me to recognize in her. But for her to go around telling people she is a mystic means that she's trying to convince herself again. Same thing, right? So every circumstance, whoops, I do that all the time. Wrong way. Let's go forward. There we go. Every circumstance, situation, or issue that arises is all part of our spiritual evolution. It's the good, bad, and the ugly that's part of our spiritual evolution. As we near the top of the mountain, which is a figurative metaphor, if you will, as we reach the top of the mountain of our journey of self-discovery, because that's the only reason that we're really here, is for self-discovery. We think it's for all, getting a new house, having a new car, getting a good job, all those kinds of things. No, it's all about our self-discovery, and everything that happens contributes to that self-discovery. We prepare to pause just for a few seconds. We remember that we are reaching toward an experience of divine communion. And that's really our job here, with ourselves, one another, and spirit. Again, I'll reiterate from the first service, we are the leaders we've been looking for in that arena. There's a wonderful African proverb that says, alone, we can go faster. Together, we can go further. And so as we near the end of our journey, because we don't get to just climb only one mountain in this lifetime. There are several mountains we get to climb. And some of them we reach the top, and some of them we might give up a little bit and turn back. But for the most part, it's about the journey. It's not about the destination. So we keep in mind today the community that has brought us here. Together as Centers for Spiritual Living, the whole organization, we work in harmony with one another, with other faiths. That's why we do lighting the flames of faith on Sundays. And other peoples to envision a continually expanding world. It's not a higher or lower world, it's an expanding world. My circle, when I first started in this teaching, was a tiny little circle I stood in. Now my circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it allows Jessica to come in. It allows Sonia to come in. It allows Rita to come into my circle. Our circles begin to overlap, and we realize the oneness of what and who we are. None of us embarked upon this spiritual journey alone. For me personally, there has always been something or someone else to guide me along the path of self-discovery, whether it was a book I read, a lecture I heard, a song that touched my soul, or a friend who helped me without being asked. I was never alone, and together we've gone further than we ever imagined we could. Raymond Charles Barker, who is one of the icons of the religious science movement, he was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes, and Ernest actually sent him to New York City to start a religious science church, which is still there, by the way. He said, when there is a problem, there is not something to do, there is something to know. What is it in my consciousness? We're doers, we're doers by nature, I think. But what is it in my consciousness that already knows the answer to whatever is going on in my life? So I have to dig deep. I have to go within to find that answer, because the God of my understanding would never give me a problem without a solution already in place. When we see a world in which every person lives in alignment with his or her highest potential spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other, a world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action, we are close to the top of the mountain. All those things have to come together in order for us to make that journey. So I'm telling on myself this morning, as I have often done when I get in the pulpit. I have an audience. So I get to tell you, I never tell a story about something that's happened in my life that hasn't already been solved. Please understand that, because I'm not here to elicit a sympathetic response from you. This past week, I lost my way. This past Monday, I knew something was wrong with my computer. I was on the Zoom call with the doctoral committee, and the computer kept making this noise, and then the picture wouldn't go away, but the sound would go away, and then I couldn't hear what the people were saying. So I knew that there was something wrong. It was my intention to finish a project I'd been working on, so I didn't trust my intuition this time the way I usually do. And I kept working in spite of the odd noises that my computer was making. I procrastinated on finishing two things that I had made a commitment to have done by Friday, one of which was this Sunday talk, and the other was the prologue to a book that I'm co-writing with one of my authors. Thursday night, I closed the computer down. It made a terrible noise. And I thought, oh, I'll work on that in the morning, right? Well, in the morning, I turned the computer on, and it kept buffering and buffering and buffering and buffering and buffering, and it said Dell, and that little circle's going round and round, but there was no sound coming out of the computer itself. It would not boot, and it just kept buffering and buffering, as I said. And I find the irony in the metaphor in all things, like Jessica said with her bolts of lightning. I love that. I love that. My computer's buffering over and over again was not unlike my tendency to do the same ridiculous behavior over and over again with no appreciable result. I thought, is this my mental equivalent? My computer's my mental equivalent? Now, as you might imagine, I was in a panic mode, absolute panic mode. I arrived at Staples at 11:59 on Friday morning, only to find the computer tech had just left for lunch. I wasn't going to go all the way back home. Ronnie, the woman who helped me, is the assistant manager at Staples in Westlake. And she had determined so gently and beautifully, she's an Indian woman, she had, in her lovely little accent, said, you know, I do think that your computer has gone to computer heaven. which was not refreshing at all, I might say. Well, we laughed a little bit because she could see my anxiety, and she was trying to help me through my anxiety. She directed me to choose a new computer because she was pretty sure, since my insurance on that computer had expired 1 month to the day before Friday, that I would be up for an unplanned $1,100 purchase. So here's another irony. I'd been saving money to get my eyelids done. So the money was there. Guess what? And there must be a metaphor between getting my eyelids done and not seeing what I really needed to. You can wax philosophical about that all you want, but just don't judge, okay? I do want to get my eyelids done. So I sat waiting for the tech, and all sorts of woe is me stuff started coming up. You know, there was like this litany of, it had been a tough week, let me just put it that way. I surrendered. You know, I decided at one point, I think, that there was no more to add to my tale of woe. And it became almost comical, the things I could dredge up. But I surrendered to the inevitable. The tech returned, and this adorable 25 or 26-year-old kid assured me that I could retrieve all my data, but it might take a couple of days. I didn't have a couple of days. I didn't. I thought, what am I going to do? Well, I used to write my sermons out longhand years ago. I thought, well, I could do that. But how am I supposed to do a PowerPoint? Who needs a PowerPoint? I didn't have PowerPoint when I first started. I was rationalizing. You get it? Yeah, right. So Friday night, the same day, Friday night at 6:55, the phone rang. And it looked like a telemarketer phone number. Didn't have no name on it, nothing. Why I answered it, I have no idea, but I did. This adorable voice, the sweetest voice in the whole wide world said, "Hi, Maureen. This is Drew from Staples. Your computer's ready." Here's what I know. When I went there, I said to him, "Drew, how did you do that? You said a couple of days." I said, "Did you not have any other clients today?" And he said, "No. You're the only tech job I had today." Wow. I mean, I get goosebumps when I think about that. So I got in my car. I was back home by 8:30, trying to orient myself to my new computer when I realized the USB port plug-in for my mouse was still in my old computer. I couldn't access my mouse. Have you ever tried to play Free Cell with your computer? Never mind. Okay, never mind. But here's the kicker. When I finally opened my Gmail account, PayPal notified me of money sent to me for 2 counseling appointments and an editing job that I had done a couple of months ago, where the guy said to me, he said, "I'll get the money to you," and it never showed up. $900 from that guy showed up, and 2 $100 payments from those 2 counseling clients. Guess how much that totals up? $1,100. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm telling you, $1,100. How many people did it take for all of that to happen? And where did we all meet? In the field of all possibility. That's where we met. Out beyond the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. We apparently all met there. And it was a congruent arrangement of some kind. Where we meet in that field is a field of energy. Again, Jessica talking about energy. The interesting part of all of this is that I created the worst stress headache I have had in my adult life over this. Because, you know, I could do the talk, but I didn't have the computer and the manuscript to do the prologue to the book that's supposed to go to the publisher. But as it turns out, the graphics designer didn't get the stuff put to the other author, And so we were okay in that arena. But waiting to hear about my computer I was so fraught with anxiety on so many different levels. I did a what if thing, What if doesn't belong to anybody in religious science. It's only for people who write spy novels. We don't go futurizing with what if, what if, what if. All those what ifs that we ever thought of never came to pass. So I was driving home after my visit to pick up the computer. It occurred to me about halfway there, the headache was gone. I hadn't taken anything for the headache. The headache was gone. I surrendered. That's what I did, and uncreated the headache. Here's what I know. Here's what I know for sure. We are spiritual beings having spiritual experiences in human form. We are. Or to put it another way, we are spiritual beings living in a human world. When the psalmist wrote, I will lift up mine eyes to the mountain from whence comes my help. It was a reminder to move beyond getting stuck in our current circumstances. Your circumstance might not be a broken computer. It could be something else entirely. I'm not going to give you any ideas because I don't want you to go there with me today. But what I do know is we are to look up, not to some imaginary God in the sky, but from a place of surrender. Look up to a greater idea. Find out what that greater idea is, and to remember that we are spirit in form. That's what we have to constantly remind ourselves. Completely, totally, and always supported by and as spirit. My quote-unquote help came from angels, a computer tech, an author I was working with, and 2 people I counseled. It is not the circumstances surrounding us. It is not that the circumstances surrounding us aren't real, because they have their reality, their small r reality. But the reality of spirit, large R reality, is greater and resolves the appearances of separation, the hurts, the fears, the angers, all those negative emotions. And yet sometimes we have to speak to those negative emotions to dissipate their energy. Otherwise they get stuck in us and end up as disease or whatever. I'm not even going to go there. Look, there are always going to be appearances. We see things with the naked eye, whether individual or global. They have their reality, but there is a greater reality than the appearances. To try ignoring them is a spiritual bypass. If I, ignored, I did ignore. I was doing a spiritual bypass for my computer, I think, at some level. But to try ignoring the appearances of things is a spiritual bypass. Jesus has achieved resurrection not skirting around the suffering, but by going straight through it. The psalmist notes that we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, not around it. Or as Dr. Tom Costa said all those years ago, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I don't have to build a condominium there, right? Okay, that's an old story. I use that a lot because it means something to me. Only by facing the appearances head on and allowing the infinite within us to guide us through will we truly resurrect and ascend into a greater knowing, as Raymond Charles Barker suggested. Then we can establish a new normal, free of past ideas. So Ernest Holmes says this. He says, we must transcend the appearance, even though we admit it as a fact. We are not so cold-blooded as to say to a person with pain that there is no such thing as pain. We admit the fact. It is quite, he does things in caps, I think. It's almost like he's yelling at us. It is quite different to admit its necessity. Why do we need pain? Disease, accordingly, is a fact, but not a truth. I remember having lunch with a friend of mine who has been diagnosed with lung cancer. Mind you, You know, as long as I knew her, when her daughter was in my daycare, she smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day. She's a registered nurse. She smoked cigarettes. And getting lung cancer was an inevitable consequence of her behavior. But what happened when we had lunch, and I was empathizing with her diagnosis, and she said, Maureen, she said, don't even go there. She said, I have cancer, but it doesn't have me. And I just like, oh my God, I've used that with 2 other clients since that time. Pain is a given in the human experience. Suffering is optional. A dead computer was a fact, but the truth is there was another computer to replace it. And the pain, the headache I experienced was unnecessary, but it was a byproduct of my own anxiety. It too was a fact, but the minute the problem was resolved, the headache disappeared. The suffering was over. So I have an affirmation for you this morning. I step out beyond my old limiting ideas into a fresh new field of freedom. Fresh new field of freedom. And in closing today, I have 3 questions I want to ask you. And these are pivotal to what's going on in our lives right now. The first one, where do I get stuck in ideas of right and wrong? Stuck, we do. You know, well, that's not right. Well, that's wrong. You know, these are only judgments made in the human experience and polar opposites. Number 2, what would my life be like if I truly trusted the universe and life? And number 3, what would a new normal, quote unquote, look like for me? How can I begin to establish that as so in my consciousness? Whoa, deep stuff, right? Deep stuff. So that's the gist of this conversation this morning. Every one of us is a divine experience on this human plane. And again, I say, we are the leaders we've been looking for. So if we can answer these questions in any problematic situation that shows up, we would be living our best life, knowing with God, all things are possible. Will you join me in consciousness, please? And just know with me, the power and presence of Spirit is all pervasive right here, right now, demonstrating itself by means of each person in this room. And so I know that life is good and very good when we let that be the standard by which we judge our experience of it. Because we can judge righteous judgment. We can have personal preference. It doesn't mean that that's how it's supposed to be all the time, every time, and with every situation. So we let go of holding on too tight to our old ideas and release them to a brand new experience of life today, knowing that there will be so many people in that field of all possibility waiting for us, and we'll meet them there, knowing that God is in the mix, all is well, as we say together, and so it is. Take it, Teresa.
I walked down to the river, stood on the shore. Seems like trouble's always trying to get in my door. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, Spirit came again, my friend, and keeps sending me angels from up on high, sending me angels to teach me to fly, sending me angels sweet and true, sending me angels just like you. As I stand on this mountain, face to the wind, amazed by all the wasted time that I have spent, and the countless enemies that should have been friends. Here it comes again, my friend. God keeps sending me angels, here they come a-flying, sending me angels to keep me from crying. Oh, sending me angels sweet and true, sending me angels just like you. Some say that it's coming, I say it's already here. The love that's among us through the joys and the fear. When I look in your eyes, everything is so clear, my friend. Spirit comes again, oh, and it's sending me angels from up on high, sending me angels to teach me to fly, sending me angels so sweet and true, sending me angels just like you.
Thank you. Perfect song. Perfect song. Well, this is our time of conscious giving. And last service, Nancy Shriver had to prompt me with the beginning of the affirmation. But once she gave me the first few words, I got it all the way through. And in the basket, I put a check for $110, which is 10% of what I got on PayPal on Friday. And but what happened? There's an addendum, a bit of an addendum I forgot to mention. When he called, when Drew called, and we went back in, turns out I had 2 copies of Microsoft Office on my old laptop. For however that happened, I have no idea. And he said, one is easily transferable. So in the package that was $1,100, the Microsoft Office was contained, a new version of it was contained in there. It was like $129. So he refunded that to me. So it's like my tithe went out to the center, and then it came back to me. You know, it just is like a revolving door almost when we really put our mind to those kinds of things. So I know today that we don't pass the basket, but you are welcome to come up here. There are so many different ways that you can donate to the center. If you're online, there's PayPal. Hit the donate button there. You can bring in a check. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it's like Old Home Week.
I know.
Happy Halloween. This is Reverend Susie Andrews. I just would like you to know that she was also one of my students way back when, and the church that she was in dissolved, and she's gracing us again with her presence here. And so there's my friend Sonia and Debbie from Divorce and Company. I mean, it's just, and Kim Buellna's here from Arizona. Her son got married Saturday or Friday? Friday. So here we are again. So if you would like to have if you have a check or cash that you would like to put in the basket, please do come up. Teresa's going to sing our offertory song.
And please sing with me. Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me, Spirit gives to us, Spirit receives through us, Spirit lives and breathes through you, Spirit lives and breathes through you, Spirit lives through us, Spirit receives through us, Spirit lives and breathes to us. Oh, Spirit lives and breathes through us.
Jessica, are you going to come up to do the? You can stand on the floor if you'd like. I just want to thank you all for being here this morning. It means a lot to me. You can bend it down, go closer to you.
All right. So, it's been a great morning, hasn't it? Oh my goodness. So I know that continuing in this consciousness that we've so recognized that we know, we're not making this up because it sounds good. God is, we are. I know that as we move forward this week, that our hearts have just opened and our love is just pouring out, radiating through the entire week, every person we meet, that this service has given us that spiritual bump so that we can just recognize that we're going to let the energy just flow through us. God is God's flowing through us. And that means it's circulating in and out, in and out. Oh, how wonderful it is. And so we can just relax and be in God. And we can affirm that by saying, and so it is. Amen.
Amen. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Stand for the peace song.
I like the way you worked that in there. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was made.